Hey everybody, waitingfornextyear.com podcast. I'm sitting in a car in an undisclosed location with okpants.
Hi, howdy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we wanted to talk about a few different things. It's always fun to have you on the show, so thanks for coming. Well, let's talk about fighting.
Fight. If there's one thing I know less about, but I'm couldn't be more enthusiastic about, it's fighting.
I thought for sure, and obviously we're talking about Stipe Miocic recapturing the heavyweight title. I have to admit that I was not. You're not going to want to do that.
That was not going to work the way
I thought. Okay. We're reattaching microphones.
Sorry. We're learning
okay.
still. Okay.
I was not confident at all going into the fight. I didn't feel like, as he was losing the first 3 rounds, I'll admit I gave up because I'm an ass. And then he comes out in the 4th round, changes his tactics, outlasts Daniel Cormier. And this sport has taught me you don't get a happy ending. And I thought, all right, well, he's not going to get the happy ending. It's over.
Well, that sport, combined with being a Cleveland sports fan, has taught us to not pop the champagne before the clock hits 0 or whatever. But no, I didn't. This fight couldn't have gone. I couldn't have been more 50-50 about this fight. I thought Stipe had a better chance of winning the rematch as opposed to the first one, but also DC is DC.
Yeah.
And I couldn't call it. But also that's why we love watching, and why people love watching MMA that are into it, right? I mean,
yep. So,
yeah, the first 3 rounds, because he kept letting it just didn't. I mean, he admitted after the fight he just didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
He started slow and everything looked funny to him.
And that's kind of like, as a musician, I could understand you could prepare all you want, and then sometimes you just come out flat, or you come out like there's just a weird vibe, and you're just. I think it speaks to how good Stipe is as a fighter that he was basically kind of freelancing for 3 rounds, and then discovered this thing called the spleen, and his fist fit mighty nice in there about 12 or 15 times.
But it just, our last memory of Stipe, because he hadn't fought in over a year, was getting knocked out by that inside uppercut, and all the things we ever knew about Stipe and his strong chin and his ability to outlast opponents. It's funny how MMA is the ultimate what have you done lately sport, because we remember Chuck Liddell went from having the world's greatest chin to having 0 chin. And so our last memory of Stipe was him getting knocked out, which we'd never seen before. And so in my mind, I'm going, all right, well, his chin's gone. He's never going to be able to do that again. But he stood there and took a beating for 3 full rounds.
It didn't worry me because he's still age-wise very much in his peak or entering it as a fighter. I think he's mid-30s?
36, just turned 37 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, he has very little wear and tear. What worried me was that him and Dana, clearly, he's not one of Dana's favorite fighters.
Not anymore.
So when he got knocked out, he
was on the way up.
The Ngannou fight cemented it as this guy better not lose, because if he loses, I feel like he's going to get conveniently kicked to the bottom of the ladder. Because
if he loses, he's going to have to wait over a year for what should have been an automatic rematch.
Well, that was my thing, I agree with you, but from Dana's standpoint and the promotion standpoint, I'm like, they had to be trying to get Brock Lesnar or anybody over Stipe, because for whatever reason, they just don't see marketing value behind a fucking firefighter that works still as a firefighter that couldn't appeal more to middle America. But as soon as he got knocked out, I was sad he got knocked out. But I was also like, man, he's gonna have miles ahead of him to try to get a rematch, because, he started campaigning immediately for a rematch, and I think he had a point. But the UFC, just as we've seen, doesn't always see things the way of fairness in those.
And I get it too. If you've got Brock Lesnar, or you've got somebody who's equivalent to Conor McGregor on the mic, I understand putting him ahead of Stipe just for business reasons. But once that failed to materialize, they chose Derek Lewis over Stipe, and that's where. That's right.
He got a match with DC before Stipe, right?
Yep.
I have such a short memory with fighting. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But that's where I start to like take offense on Stipe's behalf. Like, I'm a realist too, and if they can, who's the guy who wears the Donald Trump hat?
Colby Covington.
Colby Covington, like, that's an easy sales job. Those guys move numbers. I get it. And Stipe is not that guy. I don't want him to be that guy. I don't begrudge him being the authentic version of himself. But I also understand what's easy for Dana White in the UFC, and Stipe is not maybe the easiest thing in the world. It's just that Derek Lewis fight was the next level. It wasn't John Jones.
Okay, let's stop there real quick. What doesn't make sense about pushing the shit out of Stipe Miocic to, let's forget we're from Cleveland. Let's just say you're in the middle of Nebraska and you love the UFC. What connects more to you than a blue collar guy that would rather like be respected by his daughter and says all the right things and he works like a firefighting job? I mean, he's the closest thing to Captain America as far as like a MMA fighter gets.
The UFC is not actually good at selling fighters. The UFC is good at capitalizing on fighters who can sell themselves.
Great point. And I also think the UFC likes to be a brand bigger than any one of its fighters.
Yes.
You know, they have to be to an extent to be sustainable. But
I mean, look at who are all the most popular fighters of all time. You're looking at Chuck Liddell. You're looking at
GSP,
Ronda Rousey, John Bones Jones. I mean, Conor McGregor.
Conor's like the Beatles of MMA. I mean, he's like the black, pick any. It's just, they're never coming across another Conor McGregor for marketability wise.
But then you've got guys who made the most of their middling talent, like Chael Sonnen and guys like that.
Chael Sonnen, to me, is the actual thing that Colby Covington thinks he is.
Yes.
Like, Colby Covington couldn't be more of a bagged cereal version of Chael Sonnen. Like, I'm like, I don't even believe this guy's saying any of the things that are coming out of his mouth. And I'm like, also, this guy doesn't really need to do this. He's a phenomenal fighter.
No, but here's a Twitter video with me and two strippers. Like that's.
But it's like, I'm like, you're not this guy.
I know.
And I'm not buying it. And I'm not a Trump guy. I don't even believe Trump voters believe he's that guy.
Boy, is he fun to boo on.
He's a great heel in the sense that I can't fucking stand him. But I respect a good heel and good, bad guy charisma, but he don't have it.
No.
But he doesn't need to have it. That dude is a ridiculously talented fighter.
He is. He's a crazy talented fighter, and he also stumbled into a time period where it's as simple as wearing a red hat.
Yeah. It's how stupid America is right now. Like, he walked, I remember, because who was
you
fighting?
Want to be a troll?
Yeah. Who was fighting? It was 241 where they were booing. I think it was one of the early card fights. In between the rounds, one of the fighters goes, "Why are they booing me?" And then Joe Rogan pops in on the announce and says, he's like, "If you're wondering why they're booing, Colby Covington just walked in, ladies and gentlemen." And I go, Dana just sees bags of money with this dude. But it's really that stupid in this day and age.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's not just about him. That was all because of what he said. It was always part of the Trevor Bauer storyline. A lot of my teammates voted for Trump too.
Yeah,
and it's just like
I get it. It's cheap heat.
Cheap
you want to call it that?
Yeah.
I've watched that dude fight a couple times. And I'm like, man, he doesn't need to be doing this. Like, he's going to get a title. He has a title, but he was going to be getting one way or the other.
And Stipe won't go for cheap heat.
No. That's why when Brock came in the octagon after he lost, Stipe was talking about how he's like, I'm not a wrestler, but if you want to wrestle, go to WWE and do it. And then he's just, I think that's why Dana kind of punishes him with not giving him the marketable nod that he deserves, because he won't dance for anybody.
And that's what made it all the sweeter, him grabbing that belt one more time, because now, to whatever degree any fighter can, he's got the UFC by the balls.
Right. I mean, at this point, it's either he gets DC immediately or he gets John Jones, right? I mean,
Pretty much. I mean,
What
what's
else
the other fight?
makes sense?
Ngannou Part 2?
Brock Lesnar looking for, Brock Lesnar decides he's tired of showing up on Monday Night Raw once every month and wants a paycheck.
But I can't imagine, in all reality, I can't imagine Brock Lesnar even putting up a fight against DC or Stipe.
No, but it in the eyes of the promotion, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Because he's pay-per-view buys. Regardless of how old he is or regardless of how past his prime he might be, they'll let's have this conversation 5 years from now. We would still be discussing Brock Lesnar getting a fight booking if he wanted to make a fight.
All right, so we'll do DC versus Brock in the co-main event, and John Jones versus Stipe in the main event.
Sure. I mean, I
would buy that one.
When you talk about, you talked about Chuck Liddell falling off a cliff age-wise. DC is 40. He is, he's an athlete as they come. But when you get to that age and the drop-off comes, it comes real quick. So my only question about DC is, did it happen during that fight, or is he thinking maybe it happens if he takes another fight, and then if he beats Stipe again, he would take the fight with Stipe, I believe, in my mind. He would take that because he'd want the third rematch against John Jones at heavyweight. So he's got to risk losing to Stipe, and then he's got to do another training camp just to get through Stipe, and then you got to take a fight trying not to look past Stipe at Jones, who you really want.
Well, and meanwhile, neither one of us are world-class athletes, but we've been through the aging curve.
Yeah, you're currently enjoying it. The decline of life.
Like that turn, like anything after 30. You kind of peak in that early 20s, and then you stop healing, you stop recovering from hangovers. Like, have you entered the I don't recover from hangovers, or my hangovers last 2 days portion of your life yet?
Yeah, I'm there. I mean, I will say this, personally for me. I'm 39. I feel better at 39 than I do at 29. But I have not been...
Likewise, me at 40.
I've not been training with strong style for 6 to 8 weeks at a time, and I haven't fought anyone in my life or done any wrestling to speak of. But, MMA is a little more forgiving, I feel like, for the prime window of fighters' careers, barring injury. Like those mid-30s is when you see dudes kind of hit their prime. Dan Henderson was fighting as good as he ever fought when he was like 42, 43.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yoel Romero's 42 years old.
It's funny that you bring those two guys up in back-to-back, because when I was watching Yoel Romero fight, and especially the way his neck doesn't really move, I just thought I was like, this is Dan Henderson. This is another Dan Henderson.
He's a more physically impressive Dan Henderson. I don't know if he's a better fighter than Henderson, but him and Paulo Costa, I just was watching the fight and I was talking to my buddy, and I'm just like, this is probably the most flawless pairing of two human men, physique-wise, you could ever imagine seeing. And it was an amazing fight.
And Paulo Costa is a He-Man character. Like, he's a He-Man action figure.
It bums me out. I'm not a hater, but it bums me out when you see a dude with 17 abs, and then also he has like the face of a model, and I'm like, you literally get punched in the face for a living. How can you be this handsome? But
yeah,
the Brazilians, man, they just have
they got it all.
Geographical advantage with that stuff, man.
The symmetrical
They've
face.
got it all. There's a history of Brazilian fighters, and then the Brazilians, historically go to war in training with each other. And there's like Ricardo Arona is like one of like the most physically perfect people you could ever see in your life. They just, something to year-round sun, I suppose.
Yeah.
Proximity to water that's not brown.
And the pressure to look good in front of all those beautiful women.
Yeah, man, I've never been down there, but I have the internet. I've seen a thing or two. There is probably a lot of societal pressure there, for sure.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what you've been up to. I've been following along on social media as you've been doing a mural, big, in person with paint. Not like virtual, not like,
cheat coding my way through it.
You didn't tape it up on the wall. You actually painted it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I literally 45 minutes ago, finished a mural I was working on at Tremont Athletic Club over in University Circle for Clevelanders. And I've gotten back to just actually painting like I was, you're supposed to do when you start trying to become a professional artist. So thought it would take me 3 days because it was a very simple design. And you could see it if you go to my Instagram at okpants. I'm sure a podcast is a great visual medium. But I thought it'd give me 3 days. I'd give myself 3 days and we'll knock this out. No big deal. And then we're talking probably 10 to 11 days later, I'm like dragging it across the finish line. But it looks very good. Took me longer than I thought. It's a challenge. So
is this one of those things where you bring in the projector?
Yep.
And then you trace it on the wall?
Right. I'm
always fascinated by that process because presumably in my mind, here's how it goes. You mock it up or draw it up in your electronically.
We'll say pencil and paper, but I use a display tablet. So I'm drawing on a screen essentially.
Okay.
In the sketching phase.
And then how can you use computers to perfect your angles and your curves?
Absolutely. And that's
form?
what breaking my brain and starting over with it involves, because I work heavily in a program called Adobe Illustrator. So most people are probably familiar with vector graphics, where it's like a lot of hard edge shape related type of design elements.
Yep.
So I went from a sketch to Adobe Illustrator, banged the design out. Design took me maybe an afternoon, so like 3 or 4 hours at best. And then I'm like, there's a sadness that sets in there because I did the design and it looks perfect because I did it in a fucking computer program. It's not like, and I've been doing it for 18 years, so it's like, it's how I want it. It's perfect. And then I'm like, oh, now I have to go project this design on a wall, trace it with pencil, and then being mindful of where the lines lie on the wall because you want to give yourself room to lay out the blacks over the other color shapes. So
yeah, because then you've got like a layering order of operations.
Right.
You've got to think of it from a practical standpoint. You can't just print that bitch on the wall.
No, you could if you wanted to really save yourself some time. But I basically, my work process works a lot like screen printing, where if you think of it in levels with the paint colors I was applying, you go from lightest to darkest.
And how many colors was it?
Three.
So
it's like literally, I went to Sherwin-Williams, I picked out like the swatches off the wall, and I just was like, here, got like 3 quarts of paint back, and then I was like white, red, black, and of course there's 32 different kinds of black. So I spent like an hour at the paint store picking the blackest black I could find. But so, I trace this thing on the wall, lay out all my colors in these white and reds, lay them out. And then you can basically be kind of sloppy at that point. You can give yourself a lot of room for play because you're burying a lot of those edges under chunky black lines and other shapes. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I go, okay, cool, this is going to come together pretty soon. And then when it came time to do the actual meticulous work, I was like, time to learn how to be a painter again. I've done some murals over the last few years, but it's like starting over in a way as an artist.
All right, I'm not sure where we left off. They might have missed our entire religion break.
I think that's fine to not go back through that, because I was really beginning to ramble. So we were talking about Smashing Pumpkins, being in our late 30s,
presenting our kids with music.
We're recording now.
Yeah.
Okay. It's weird to me because I don't know if I'm ever going to have kids. It's certainly not a priority in my life to procreate right now. But I know my mom and dad liked music. They didn't love music, but they had Led Zeppelin and Stevie Wonder and Robert Palmer. They had their loves. So they were always here, listen to this, and this is what this is. But there wasn't most of my friends and myself, total band people, went to a billion shows and stuff. So it wasn't I think if you begin to introduce music as dogma to your kids, same way if you ride your kids too hard to play sports and be good at it, they're not going to want to fucking do it.
No.
And it's, I think and you tell me, you're the parent here, not me, but I think if you all you can do is sort of educate and introduce things to your kids and see what they gravitate towards over time.
No, I think that's definitely true. And beating them over the head with a certain type of music.
That's a surefire way to make
Yeah.
sure they fucking hate it.
Yeah, so I just wanted my kids to have.
I did when I was a dickhead to my little brother when I was in high school, where my little brother obviously wanted to listen to all the things I listened to.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I was fat and angry as a teenager, and I just lived to fuck with my brother. So I'd try to throw him off my track. So I was like the worst possible indie rock snob you could ever imagine when I was like 15. So what it made, you'll love this. So what it made my brother do was I was listening to like Sonic Youth and Sebado and anything on Sub Pop. So my brother was like, well, if my brother doesn't want me to listen to this shit, I guess I have to listen to this garbage called Cockspur and the Misfits and Rancid and Dead Kennedys. And I basically bullied him into being into music that like I listen to now as like an adult. But
that's funny.
Yeah, I sort of like through my own bad taste in music sort of made him set him on the right track or whatnot. But yeah, we both go to Rancid shows and listen to Cockspur now. But yeah, I don't know. I should have just like let my brother in on what I was doing more. But I've since apologized. Like we get along very great now. But
But there's like this thing about wanting your own walled garden and kind of being the gatekeeper. And I always wanted to be the first one to find something, and like I was that crazy person too, and I wanted to share it, but I wanted to be there first.
Yeah, because you get called a fag and you get like shoved in enough lockers in high school, and that was like my thing. Like that was the thing that I had over anybody. I was literally like when I was 14, and like the dudes in the football team were like, Sechrist, what do you listen to? And I literally would say, oh, you've never heard of it. And I look back at that, I go, man, no wonder I got beat up in high school, because I was a fucking jack off. But
that was me too.
But it was, when you're a kid, I got all that out of my system when I was like 15, 16,
I
17.
probably said you wouldn't like it.
Yeah, it was because I was like, I only listen to this because you guys are dickheads, and I was like, and I don't even remember what they liked. I just was like I was so hard up to just be cool and be into arty, indie rock, snobby things, and then looking back at it, it's like, man, I'm glad I did that in my teens, and like I have my whole adult life to not be that, because I hate that type of person now.
Yeah, no, I do too.
But yeah, it was like, I'll think about it.
But I think I had to be that guy to hate that guy. Like, I had to be that guy.
Sure.
To
100%.
But it's funny. I'm sitting here now, and I've got a Banana Republic sport coat on. Like, so it's like.
But you know what? Like, it's.
I felt nine hard.
I could also spin it the other way, where I will see people that clearly should have gotten into punk rock at the appropriate time in life, and now they're 40. And like yelling at cars and stuff from their bicycle,
yeah,
or going on gigantic rants on social media about nothing, and I'm like, oh, you forgot to get into hardcore and punk when you could have been just enjoying your life and being happy.
That's a good point. Like, being an angry young man has like relieved me. I don't have to get anything out of my system now.
No, it's the same as, when we talk about people that peaked in high school, they peaked too early.
Yeah.
Well, there was also, like, you could peak too early with all that stuff, or you get, you just, like, I'll try to listen to new hardcore, because I do love heavy, hard music, but I don't have it in me to be this angry. If I was 24, I would love all these new school bands, but I just can't do it.
Well, it's like some of my best friends from high school and in that time period are getting together to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Acid Bath.
Yes.
They're performing that entire album, and nobody is better than those guys. And I remember when that music was current to me,
mm-hmm.
and like some of the most vile, angry, violent lyrics. And here I am. I couldn't be more excited for that show. But
they were really like the first wave of that kind of death metal too. We're talking like 94, 95.
Yep.
Yeah. That was like, that was when I was snobby indie rock guy, but I had a lot of my friends were into death metal, and I just was being ironic snob guy. I was like, this is hilarious. You guys like actually like this shit? Like
yeah.
Fetuses and, sticking guns up pregnant women's asses and shit. And
Yeah,
Here we are.
it was shocking for the sake of being shocking in a lot of ways, and
Well, that was the first time it was the first wave of that stuff. It was the only way to be extreme with that. And then musically, some of it was really fucking good.
yeah, and so, but I've had to try and figure out a way to like place it in the universe, or not even justify it, but place it, and I've decided that like it is to music what horror movies are to cinema.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
You can play that music and write those lyrics, and it's kind of an outlet, but you're not really a homicidal maniac.
No, so what, did you wait till your kids were like 5 before you played that stuff?
Well,
it is like I'll like look at like album art and I'll listen to certain music and I'll be like, I go, man, this is pretty fucked up. Like, you know, like there are people that really kind of like approach this from a way too realistic standpoint.
Yeah, well, and it's easier to figure out. Like, I can explain to my kids Rage Against the Machine, but it's a lot harder to explain Acid Bath or like.
There's a certain age, I think. You know, I don't think you have to introduce kids to everything. Like,
no.
There's like hardcore and metal, especially, was something I kind of had to like start from the ground up with. Like tons of my friends were into like heavier death metal stuff, but I was I
can start with Converge before we get to the cartoony like.
Converge was something I had to ramp up to, and like Integrity was even something I had to ramp up to because I didn't understand it. And like the only way I can go through things is by like literally experiencing it from the ground up. So I'm like, I made a hard left from like super artsy indie rock guy to I was going to every Mushroomhead show, like one a month for years, and then from there I like discovered Integrity, and that was like the next stepping stone from that. And then from Integrity was more metallic hardcore bands that kind of mixed emo together, and that was because they were like 22-year-old dudes trying to get laid by some girls and stuff. But then Converge.
So you had to sing the verses in between the screaming and the choruses because the girls wouldn't come otherwise.
Exactly. It was fucking brilliant, man. Like it makes so much sense. And then you can listen to maybe 10% of any of that shit in 2019, but some of it holds up. But more often than not, it was dudes that were like, if MySpace had been born 5 years earlier, they would have been cleaning the fuck up. But you get my point. But at any rate, like Coalesce. Converge is, you've not played Converge for your kids yet?
Oh, no, I would. Because, like, it doesn't have the cartoony, violent lyrics, you know?
No, it's just very chaotic musically.
Yes.
It's very well played, but it's super chaotic.
Yeah, no, I do play some of that. My kids actually like some of the more melodic stuff that has screaming in it. So like, I've played Hope's Fall.
Hope's Fall holds up hard as hell, man.
Does.
Like I listen to that Satellite Years album still to this day. Oh, okay. So with kids, this is a perfect segue into this conversation. So I turned 40 at the end of October, and so for my 40th, we're getting my old metallic hardcore band back together. Because my drummer played our EP for his kid, and his kid was moshing in the kitchen. His kid's like 4, and I was like, "All right, this makes a lot of sense to do this."
Can you still scream?
Yeah.
Can you still scream like that?
Yeah, because it's like a manipulation of your vocal cords. It's not like I'm yelling at like someone that cut me off on the freeway.
Okay.
It's like a weird effect almost.
Because I used to be able to do kind of that almost white noise metal scream.
Yeah.
Can't do it anymore.
Knock on wood, my voice, like I grew into my voice. So like, I'm no Tom Jones, but I can sing okay, sing melodically. And then when it comes to screaming, like it's fine. I'm not concerned that much about the musical end of things. It's more the physical end of things. Because I was definitely like an Andrew WK, David Lee Roth guy on stage, very active. So, been doing a lot of intermittent fasting and extra yoga sessions lately to kind of get ready for this thing.
Get those hips, get the hips stretched out.
You know, it's funny. It's all funny, but it is like I was like, I cannot be 60 pounds overweight when I do this fucking show in 9 weeks.
No, and that's probably the last place we should hit before we wrap up.
Yeah, we can always meet up again. I can update you on my training camp, dude.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, So that's something you and I have in common.
Yeah.
We've both been fat guy before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a great other. We could definitely dive back into that if you want.
So you're not in fat guy mode right now.
Meaning like eating wise?
No, I just mean like, anybody who's been fat guy is afraid of the wave, the ups and
The
downs.
fluctuation of it?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, right now, I no longer eat. Like, I definitely probably had an eating addiction at points in my life. So, like, I have it in check. But, oh, yeah. Like, you get depressed. Because I'm not a drug guy. And not even like I'm a party drink guy, but I'm not like an alcoholic drink guy. But eating,
Yup.
turn the lights off, and it's like, yeah, like listen to like some Lou Reed while you like house, an entire pizza or something. Yeah, that totally has been a lifelong problem of mine.
When I was depressed on the way home from bars, I used to I'd be like, oh, the Burger King drive-thru's open. How many burgers do I think I could smash?
Yeah,
Because
it's like your own inner monologues just drowned out by the sound of drug food entering your body and just chewing.
Sunday mornings, this was my like the lowest of the low. Sunday mornings, I'd wake up like hungover and alone and depressed, and I'd go to a Bruegger's and I would get 5 bacon, egg, and cheese bagel sandwiches.
Wow.
And I would eat them over the course of I'd make them last through lunch. So it was 2 meals, but it was like,
That's impressive.
who eats 5?
I could eat 5 bagels, but when you throw bacon and egg and cheese in there, that's a lot of food.
Not to mention, it's just not healthy. I mean,
No, I would like,
your food selection and quantity are both way off.
it's more, I think it's just like, I'm way out of control right now. And like, I was never a volume eater. I was like, I want to eat until like I hate, like I'm physically like not barfing ill, but like I'm way past full,
Oh yeah.
and then like it's an excuse to not do anything for the rest of the day.
Yep.
This conversation took a turn, didn't it?
No, but it's. I feel like I'm on the other side of it.
Yes, I mean, and this was behavior I had like when I was a teenager and shit. So it was like deprogramming.
Mine was into my 20s.
Yeah, because I got it in check in my early 20s. I did what the keto diet used to be called the Atkins diet. So
Oh, yeah.
I did the Atkins diet, and I never tried really dieting in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned like 20, I did the keto Atkins diet. I lost like 70 pounds in 6 months.
Okay.
So I was probably, I didn't even ever weigh myself at my heaviest. I just sort of guessed. And then my lightest, I was like 180.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, but then you're doing the Atkins, so you're really not eating right. You're just tricking your body so you could eat 7,000 fucking chicken wings.
It's like playing Nintendo with the Game Genie.
Exactly. It's not healthy eating habits. Like you're just starving yourself of one of your macros, basically. So then it's like I'm in my late 30s, nearly 40. It's like, okay, now I eat how you're supposed to normally eat for the most part. And then you eat an Impossible Whopper every now and then. Doesn't help that I'm a minority partner in a pizzeria, but I don't eat that too often. So
Yeah. Although, if you're ever going to make an exception, a pizza with like pickles on it and all that kind of stuff.
a white pizza with pickles on it,
Probably
yeah.
a pretty good idea.
Well, that was my partner came over one day because we were working on some things, and he went into his trunk and he goes, he's like, you posted on the internet you're dieting for the show. I was like, I can't have that happen. He gave me like, that was the first day he were selling the pickle pizza, and I was like, oh man, thanks man. I was like, and then like, eat half the thing, and I was like, oh, it's delicious. But
Yeah, you just gotta. I went through the tricking my body portion, and then you realize like I don't think I can do this forever, and then so you end up at like eating the way you're supposed to eat. I've been through it all as well.
yeah, it's fun to treat your body like a science experiment every once in a while.
But it's also important just to get it out there. Like I every morning that I wake up, there's a part of me that still feels like that fat guy. Like
I don't ever
I've
not
been
want to
there.
feel like the fat guy. Not like the depressed fat guy, but like I don't ever want to be the guy with abs, have that attitude.
Yeah.
I'd love to have abs, but
Sure.
like, I would way rather just always, you know, it's just good to, I feel like it's good that I was a fat kid. You know, it really humbled me early in life. That combined with being a Browns fan in the 80s really sets you up.
There are a lot of things I'll just never take for granted.
I was like, it was like between being a Browns fan and being made fun of for being a fat kid, I'm like, you can live, by the time I was like in my 20s, like there's nothing you can do to hurt me anymore. Then I remembered I'm like a straight white dude, so it's really like I never really had that bad. But
we really are the true victims.
Yes. Overlooked, marginalized.
Straight white males.
Yeah, but that's...
And, you know, entrepreneurs, business owners, if the world would just, like, cut us a break.
Just waiting for my turn, man. And I'm not trying to end your podcast, but I have to pee really badly. And then speaking of eating, I haven't done that yet today either, so I got to do that, so...
Well, it was fun to have you. It was fun to talk about God knows what.
You're one of my faves, man.
It's always a good time.
On or off the air, I love doing it.
We'll do it again soon. Talk to you next time. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.